Here's 3 whiskey bottles you should consider backing up. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So when it comes to building a whiskey or bourbon collection, one of the questions we come up against is, should I back up certain bottles? For me, to be honest with you, I don't tend to do that very often. I kind of steer away from it. I have a lot in my hutch. That's just a one-off bottle. The only thing I have of that, I don't have a second one. There are times where I kill off a bottle. Maybe I do replace it relatively soon because I really enjoy that one. But more often than not, I'm letting that kind of go for a couple of months and exploring other avenues in the world of whiskey. I think there's just so much out there that I still have yet to taste. But there are a few exceptions to that, ones that I do have backups of, and I wanted to talk through the reasons today of why I have certain backup bottles and highlight 3 for you. So the first bottle on my list, let's just dive right in, is bottles that are rare to your area. So for me, that is 1792 bottled in bond. This has become a little bit more available around me, but still not super easy to find. And for around $45 to $50, I think it's a great bottle. It's one that I enjoy a lot. I actually just killed off my previous bottle of this last night as of the day of this filming. So really glad that I have a second one. So it's rare to my area. I don't see it all that often. Maybe once a year I see it kind of flood the market, and that's when I make sure to grab 1 or 2 of them to have a backup. So I would say if there are bottles that you know that are rare to your area, harder to find, but maybe hit every once in a while, I think it's worth considering getting a backup in that instance. Okay, so the second bottle on my list represents a whole category, which is batches or single barrels that are really, really good, fit your profile, and you want to have multiple of before you can never see them again. So for me, that type of category is represented by Larceny Barrel Proof. This is batch B523. And for me, this was a great batch of Larceny. I tend to get most of the batches just because I like the Larceny profile. I like comparing all the batches from the year at the end of the year and just seeing what I like the most. So always going to get myself the Larcenys if I can, but there are certain batches where you're like, ooh, instead of that being just a really good whiskey, that's a great whiskey. And while I have the chance, let me get a second one. I kind of wish I had done that with Larceny Barrel Proof C9 22, I think it was. That was my whiskey of the year that year. And I kind of learned from my mistake there and got a second one of B523 before it was gone. And now again, like that's one I'm probably never going to see hit the area again. I'd have to trade or whatever it is to get a second bottle. So glad I grabbed one because this is a batch that I wanted to have on hand and keep sipping on. So I got myself a second one. That's exactly what I want. That's a Russell's Reserve single barrel that I cherish. That's one of the best bottles I have because of the particular profile. I think there's no shame in getting a second one to make sure you have that around for quite a while. Okay, so just before we get to the last bottle on the list, which is one of the more exciting ones, do want to ask for 3 things. 1, comment down below. Let me know, what are the bottles that you tend to back up? Do you do that a lot? Is that an often kind of practice for you? Or is it rare, or do you never back up a bottle? And then 2, please hit the like button on this video. That's what helps get it out to the most people. And 3, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider joining us for the rest of 2024 and beyond. Okay, now that we've gotten the obligatory asks out of the way, let's get to our third bottle, which represents just limited, amazing bottles that you're lucky enough to get twice. For me, that bottle is Michter's 10-year rye. So this is the 2023 release. I already had a bottle of it that I was in love with, and you know, I would sip on it very occasionally because of that, but had the opportunity at the distillery to get a second bottle of it. This one's actually signed by the master distiller, which adds a little bit of extra cool factor, and I had to go for it. Just knowing how much I cherish my first bottle, the opportunity to have a second one was something I couldn't pass up. Although I will say what it's done is make me sip on the open bottle I have quite a bit more, which I think is a good thing, but that one's going to be gone sooner than I was anticipating because the psychological factor of having a second one just makes it a lot more easy to turn to that bottle and say, oh yeah, I want that profile right now, and I can have it because I have a second one. So obviously this gets you into the category of like a lot more expensive and rare, but if you're lucky enough to see a bottle that you've already got that was expensive but was 100% worth it, if you get the chance to buy it a second time, I think it might be worth it. All right, everybody, that's it. Those are my 3 bottles, and really kind of the categories or instances in which I would consider it fair for myself to get a backup bottle. These are really kind of the only instances where I would do it. Otherwise, I'm just out there exploring as much as I can. But again, would love to hear in the comments, how do you kind of approach backing up whiskey or not? All right, that's going to do it. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey, maybe back up that bottle you love, and cheers.